came in like bouncers. Welcome, everyone. Hi, it's a frosty morning here. And welcome to our masterclass. We are Free Mind Sessions and a networking community. And we're here to tell you today our process on how we create a simple, very impactful, cozy, and intimate networking experience. My name is Lyndsay Obath, and I'm the co-founder of Free Mind Sessions. And here with me today we have
Nyaomba, and I am the founder of Free Mind Sessions. It's a funny story. As a young kid, you're kind of figuring out, you're not really understanding who you are, and you're exploring different options. And I like that, for me, design has always been such an integral part of my upbringing, cutting, pieces of curtain and making clothes for your dolls. I never really thought that this was like the path into design and fashion. Primary school, you choose courses such as art and the crafts, and then you go into university where home science, was one of my favorite subjects. And it allowed me to express myself. But not only that, I started to realize that I want to be of service for people. And clothing felt like something that I could do for people to make them feel comfortable and make them feel powerful. And as I continued on this path, I also realized, what can I do more than just make fancy clothes and garments for people? I felt that, integrating myself in various clubs and societies whereby I could be able to express my opinions and express myself in be able to do the best that I can to my ability. I think everybody's journey is so different. When I think of my early, stages of figuring out what kind of career path do I want? And I think this was probably around the age of 7 when I knew that I really wanted to be a fashion designer. And it was clear by me cutting, curtain pieces and making these elaborate clothes for my dolls, and also just figuring out that I had this part of me that really wanted to be of service for people. And how could I do that? I mean, you're at the age of 7, what do you even know? But I knew that I wanted to make people feel comfortable. I knew I wanted to make people feel powerful. And these little dolls in front of me were the people that were channeling this little power that I had. So come towards going into high school, and there was this course for this home science course, which allowed me to express my design capabilities. And that's when I really knew for sure that I did want to do design. And these are the things that sort of merge into your mind and say, this is what I want to do. And I continued with this path until university. It's so important when you are discussing these things with your parents. I hope that one of the things, the takeaways that you will take from this is understanding conversation and vulnerability towards people that you really care about will always push you towards making your own path. And what was the exciting part was, I guess the most exciting part about choosing a career is the act of choosing a career, I guess. But one of the things I will say is I was meticulous about that because I wanted it to be something that was very integral to me. And university has one thing showed me, that you do not know anything until you step into that place. 2016, I had to retake my 3rd year of design. There was a lot going on. Losing a parent is never easy. It messes with your mind, your emotional mind, your physical mind, all of the things. And I will not blame it on so many things, but I will say that through this, there was a lot that I didn't know was forming in the background. We had a fashion project that we had to embark on, and this really challenged me to go and figure out, what do I want to do? How do I want to make my father proud? How do I want to make myself proud? How do I want to make my sister proud? I think those are the things we think about as creatives or as a human, And in that light, in that turmoil, weirdly enough, I was able to come up with Ethereal Bohemia, which was the name of my fashion line, which was to give power, almost superhero power in a way. You wear these clothes, you get into it, and it's almost you're about to save the world through conversation. And I enjoyed, the creating process. I enjoyed just conceptualizing. I enjoyed the freedom of expression. And I really, really took my time with it. But post, the project, things are winding down. We're going home for our 3-month holiday. And something I do want to tell you guys, which I find super exciting, is the act of reverse brainstorming. When you go home, there's something that happens when you've been inside a project for so long that it's almost like your brain ingests it, and then it's like it just kind of gets lost in your subconscious. And so that's kind of what happened to me, the act of reverse brainstorming. I kind of wasn't thinking about the project, but I was also thinking about the project, if you get my drift. So this is what happened. I go home, I'm kind of sitting on things, on different other projects, but at the back of my mind, the Ethereal Bohemia is still there, somewhere. And I'm still sort of dreaming about it, feeling the feelings of what I was experiencing back at school, but not really in transit. And so what happened to me, as I was sort of like, wait a minute, how about we can be able to make this something that's actually more than just a clothing line? So we started to think about making a session. And how was I going to be able to do this? I wasn't going to be able to do this on my own, of course. And this is how the genesis of me figuring out how I'm going to be able to curate a team. The beauty of this is that we live in Nairobi, and we are able to connect with various people. And this is also the beautiful story of me meeting my co-founder, Lindsay. I think many times I was scared of taking the leap of faith. So I, brainstormed with a lot of my peers. People didn't know what I was talking about half the time. And the other time, they also knew that this was probably a very crazy idea. I also started to think, where would I even have these sessions? That's the one thing you need to ask yourself. Where would you even hold where would you hold something like this? Venue is very key, I would say, and also just the core team of who is going to be able to help with these moving parts. The exciting part was that meeting Lindsay was one of the pieces that I needed to solidify everything to come together. And this is where we can say that Free Minds, as you see today, is not how you're experiencing it right now. And that's through the first session being at Kengele's, it being very focused on creatives, has evolved into 4 pillars that we now experience with creativity, with business, and with the social issues, and our miscellaneous pillar, which we like to have fun and enjoy ourselves. Free Mind Sessions, we are a community that likes to come together maybe once, maybe twice a month to share opinions on various topics, themes, and discussions. The aim of Free Mind Sessions is to open up your minds towards breaking down these stereotypes that we like to put ourselves into, and the mental slavery sometimes we like to engulf ourselves in. Free Mind Sessions is grounded on 4 pillars. We have our creative pillar, which is where we come together from various creative industries to share opinions, to run workshops, and in the hopes to gather enlightenment in those various fields. We have our business pillar, which is better known as our biashara pillar, where we talk finances, money literacy, money management, all that good stuff. And our social pillar, which is so integral in our lives today, mental health, relationships, even things like failure. We are so uncomfortable opening up about these situations and things that it's important for us to create this informal networking space, but also a safe space for you to come with your homies, but also to meet other people that will probably change your lives for the better. And then we also, without forgetting, is our quiz night, or better known as our miscellaneous pillar, where we like to have a good time, but also as our buffer, because we are always trying to change the world with these topics, but we also know that it's important to take a little break. Yeah. I mean, Free Minds wouldn't be Free Minds without my co-founder. So it is very integral that I introduce her to talk about how we go behind the scenes of making a Free Mind session. And without further ado, Lyndsay Obath will be taking us away.
Hi guys, I'm Lyndsay Obath, the co-founder of Free Mind Sessions. If you haven't heard about me so far, I'm here. So in this section of our masterclass, I'll be taking you through how we get our projects from start to finish, how we put our whole event together, how you get to experience what we have prepared for you within the afternoon or the evening that we set. So the first thing I need you to know is that our sessions actually run quite long. On average, they take about 4 hours, and as a team, we have to think about what are we actually going to discuss within those 4 hours and how we're going to put it together. So as Nyaomba had mentioned before, we run around 4 pillars, and around those 4 pillars, we have to choose our topics. How we choose our topics is every few weeks, or actually quite often within a week, we meet and we decide what topic best suits the pillar that we have at hand, given the time of the year that it is. If it is a social issue, however, we look at what social issues are necessary and important within that space. For example, if there is a cause that we feel we need to address, or if we feel that there are certain topics that haven't had their voice yet, we really try and see how best to fit that within our calendar. So as we do our meetings, we think about very, very many things. We sit down for several hours and we brainstorm. As Nyaomba had mentioned before, that reverse brainstorming, well, now we're really getting into the thick of it. And what we do is we figure out the topic and we come up with several lists of questions. And we go through questions, we bounce them off of each other. We ask ourselves, does this make sense? Does it not make sense? It's also very important to think about how do your questions relate to the topic at hand. Each topic has an objective. If the objective is to bring more awareness, we have to make sure our questions and our discussion points are geared towards that thing. The next thing we do after bouncing off those questions is now we kind of have a run through of what is our event going to look like, based on the topic. Will we talk about more of this topic in the beginning, in the middle, or in the end? Is our topic going to be split into 3 parts? Is it going to be split into 4 parts? Who knows? So we have the meetings where we discuss the topics, and then that's when we bring in the catalysts. Another very integral part of our sessions is who's going to be involved. We realize it takes a village to bring an idea together. So what we do is we invite people who have expertise, who are key speakers, people who have been involved within certain industries and certain topics to bring our ideas and our conversations to life. Our team is fairly small, so we need as much help as we can get, and that's where the catalysts come in. In most cases, you would hear that an event has key speakers, keynote speakers, a panel, and we initially tried that out and we realized it doesn't work. Why doesn't a panel work? Let me make that very clear to you guys. A panel within the intimate space that we create does not work because people are being spoken at. There's no exchange except that very small, very limited Q&A that you have after or before, and it takes away from that experience of actually getting to know people. Because remember, our objective as a company and as an event is to get people to network. So how best do we actually achieve this? Take out the panelists and bring in the catalysts. So the catalysts in the way we run our events is we assign them into different focus groups, and they pretty much guide each group through the conversation based on their expertise. This allows for 1, a better exchange, 2, a more genuine connection between people, and 3, everyone hates public speaking. So we take that away. Okay, not everyone, but most people do actually find it very uncomfortable to speak publicly. So we take that big experience and make it a very little explosive one. So the catalysts really help us get our topic across. We brief them in the meetings that we have before as well. And we give them a better idea of what our event is. So that means several emails, lots of correspondence. Sometimes our catalysts can't make it, so it's always advisable to have a backup plan for your catalysts, because if not, you'll just have a bunch of people who, for the most part, are clueless, and you don't end up obtaining your objective. So pretty much in the sense of the word catalysts, they help you speed up and make sure your process is seamless for your session. The next thing that we have that's also very, very crucial for our sessions is our collaborators. The same way we must speak out to these catalysts and within our team, and there's a whole atmosphere of collaboration, we still need to bring the event together, and we need to get more people involved. So collaborations in this case could mean every aspect of collaboration. Who is going to be hosting us for our session? We currently, as Free Mind Sessions, we're a very mobile event. We've moved around over the years, and we've gone from venue to venue, and we've been very lucky that the way we present ourselves is that we add value. So when we come to collaborations, this is how we do it. As we move from place to place, we must make sure that we talk to venues, and this is how we add value. We say, we're going to bring you numbers, etc., people buying, maybe host an event, maybe get a special offer for the day, and we will always guarantee you that we'll bring you quorum. An important part of our collaboration is getting a space. So with venues, we have to make sure that we are providing value, because we work on almost like a barter trade type of agreement. So we ask for your services or what you have in exchange for us making sure that you get your sales. And this is venues specifically. It's hard to get a venue when you're not offering them something. So as you're planning your event, you need to make sure that your venue understands what value that you bring. So we've actually moved around Nairobi quite a bit. And we've moved from Lavington to Westlands to Kilimani, and we've had some great collaborators along the way in that regard. The next kind of collaborations that we need is human, manpower. Who are the people that are going to keep our event running? I had spoken about the catalysts before, but now we need people who elevate the experience. In this case, I'm talking about hosts. We've been very fortunate enough to be, like I said, very well networked, which is indeed what we do, with people who have experience in this. So if we feel a host is necessary, that one matches the vibe and the experience that we want to bring out, then we'll get them on board. Another collaboration that we have is brands. You need to think about the topic that you have at hand. Which brand do you feel is going to match the topic that you have? Because you can't be talking about, for example, mental health awareness, and then you're trying to talk to an alcohol brand or some form of liquor brand, because it kind of defeats the purpose when it comes to what your objective is. So you need to think about the brands that you want to work with, and don't hesitate to reach out to as many brands as you can. As small as they are, as big as they are, because at the end of the day, they will help you bring your vision together. Other collaborations you may not have thought about that you can easily get, depending on how you navigate and show your value, is things from clothing, hair and makeup, even people to help you with some of your set. You want some flowers, talk to the people that you know. If you want someone to come and set up some special lighting, it's all about putting your best foot forward and believing in what you do so that you can be able to collaborate and make the most out of your experience. Another very important aspect of collaborations is once your event has grown, and you feel like you want your experience to be almost transported and planted somewhere else, you have to think about where else will your event fit. And sometimes that's within an even bigger space where there's other events happening as well. So from festivals to conferences, et cetera, we've had the opportunity, I'd say, very crazy, once in a lifetime opportunity to work with some of the biggest festivals within the region. It's important to consider certain things when you start moving like that as a team. As you go towards festivals that are especially fun-packed and you want to bring the fun as well, it's difficult to package an intimate networking event vis-a-vis a crowd that is pretty much belligerent for most of the time that's there. So key things to note is, like I said before, your topic. Is it relevant to all the fun that's being had there? Or will you be presenting something that may not be fitting in? I will admit that there are times we've fallen short and we've presented an idea and a topic towards a festival space and it did not gel. What did we learn from that? That your topic is always key. Your location also is always key. You must do a recce of the space. You must have a team that is also very flexible because anything can go wrong. And the most important thing is to just keep good spirits. Because when you're collaborating with an event that is bigger than yours, you have to realize there are very many moving parts that you may not have control of. So these are things that you need to consider. Focus on what you and your team have full control over and make sure that you execute within your flexibilities. And that's how we've been able to work not only within places outside of Nairobi, such as Kilifi, but also outside of the country. We did work with the Fashion Week within Kampala, and we brought about several topics that we felt were relevant to that event. We did experience some challenges, lack of communication between different teams, but you must be able to, one, go with the flow, and two, be very quick with your solutions, because time is going. There is prep happening. All the meetings you feel you can have to rectify the situation, you won't be given that time most of the time. So you must be creative with how you choose to find your solutions within that time. Moving on to probably the most core part of how and why we're able to function for as long as we have is our team. Our team consists of very many moving parts. We have a tech team that does our pictures, that does our videos, that does our edits, and they also advise us on how to position things within the location. We also have our core team that plans the events. So your tech team, your core team, and the third team that I'm going to tell you about, which is the team within the location that you want to shoot, are pretty much cousins. And they need to have a good relationship when you're putting your event together. Because your tech team advises you on how to best position your event so that post the event, there's a seamless feel for what it is people came to experience. Your team that actually produces and makes the session itself needs to be very, very cohesive so that even if there are disagreements, because they are there, even if there's a change of mind, even if we have to go back to square one, you need to have that chemistry with them so that that doesn't affect your relationship with your other two teams. The team that you will find at your venue or at your festival or at your other event is probably the last team that you're going to meet. These are the people that make sure there's drinks on tap. The ones that make sure people won't get irritated that their food is taking too long. The ones that will direct people and make sure that there's parking and all of that. A seamless relationship between these three teams is very crucial because that helps translate that energy into your event as well. Because I'm sure you've been to events where you arrive and you can tell everything is in shambles. things are starting late, everyone's pissed off, no one knows really what's happening, and people can feel that energy when you get onto the location. So having that relationship between the three teams is crucial. So with our tech team, we have to let them know weeks, if we can, in advance about what is happening. They will make sure gear is available. There's batteries, there's backups, because having backups is also very crucial because anything can happen. As I mentioned before, when you're doing your collaborations, a lot of things are not in your hands. A lot of things rely on other people keeping their word and making sure they show up to get the job done. And luckily with our tech team, we brief them on shortlists. We tell them, okay, we have certain collaborations that are happening. So you need to focus on making sure this product is there. You need to make sure that you're capturing this aspect of what's happening. Make sure you're highlighting our catalysts and showing them doing what they do best. Make sure that our host is also captured doing what they do best. Capture the environment of what we're doing, because after the event, for those who are not there to experience it, you're pretty much trying to create the idea of FOMO. You want people to look at this and think, I should have been there. I should have been there and I can't miss the next one. So having your tech team fully marinated in your ideas is crucial. And once you're comfortable with the tech team, then you'll be comfortable with every other team. So making sure you have a good team is always key. At this point, your event is pretty much coming together and you're trying to see how best to put it out there to make sure you get the numbers that you need, as well as getting the money that you need. So our event has been running for years, but of course, we don't do it pro bono, although we do some other things pro bono. But it's important to make sure that no one is really struggling, and your event itself is not struggling. It needs to be within a space where it's sustainable. And as an event, of course, we have to talk about ticketing. So over the years, we've been partnering up with one main ticketing company because it also helps to centralize it. And as I was talking about the value add before, now with ticketing, luckily enough, we were able to position ourselves within a company that also marketed our events within their ticketing platform. I've seen that trend happening a lot now. So if you are going to promote an event, think about what other extra benefits can you be getting within that space. So what would happen is we would put our event up and tell them, okay, we're scheduling our ticket sales for this time, et cetera, and we needed to also make sure that our ticketing prices are reasonable. We understand our demographic as well. And you must plan your ticket prices within the demographic that you're trying to reach, given the event. Of course, there's some more exquisite and extravagant events, and those events, of course, will cost more, but ours is fairly reasonably priced so that we can keep people coming back. Trust me, it's a good secret. So what we do with our ticketing, we post it up within the ticketing website, and they also give us data. That data helps us with our post-production, which we will get to eventually. We get to gather information that helps us to plan our next event and also to track how many ticket sales have you been doing. What's your average number? When you price the tickets at this point, what's the response? Do you get more people? Do you get less people? So ticketing actually plays into the minds of your demographic and whether they're going to show up or not. You know, ticketing also can be planned around what time of the month. We plan our events for the end of the month where we know, given our ticket prices, people will be able to actually afford it. So in a sense, that almost gives people no option but to actually buy their tickets and come. So once you've settled on your tickets and all of that, now you have to think, we need to tell people about this thing. It's gonna cost this much. We're gonna talk about this. This is where it's gonna happen. This is the kind of vibe. Maybe there's a dress code. Maybe there's going to be certain key speakers or catalysts. or maybe it's going to be somewhere at a different venue, etc., etc. And that's where we talk about what is your marketing strategy. So you have to think about, okay, the things we want to design to give people this information need to be things that are easily palatable. So you're thinking about your social medias, your websites, if you have any, your newsletters, your emails and everything. So you must think about it in that way. What information are you packaging for different platforms? Currently, we use mainly social media, a website that we post our newsletters on, and word of mouth. I think we rely a lot on people's experience coming here and what they tell other people. Because for the most part, our events have a lot of people coming here for the first time. And they keep coming back with other first-timers. So word of mouth is also very key when it comes to marketing. But of course, once they hear about it, they'll probably go onto your social media and find out, okay, what is this thing? If they haven't, now it's up to you to take on that responsibility. Schedule posts, sponsor posts, because that will keep that fire burning. Sometimes you don't have enough time to push the event like you would on your social media itself. So you need to make a bit of a sacrifice financially and actually invest in a sponsored post. So that you're kind of shoving down the event, shoving the event down people's throats so that they have no room to ignore it. And of course, even with the event being there, what really is going to make them come to this event? And as human beings, a lot of things affect us psychologically. And marketing can be said to be probably one of the most psychologically toxic relationships between human beings and the corporate world. But in this case, you need to make your marketing work for you. And that's where we get into, what does your poster look like? Think about, okay, you're trying to grab people's attention as they're scrolling. You know, people have a few seconds of an attention span looking at one post and they're on to the next one. It's like an express highway. Of course, not the Kenyan highways because you'd be there forever. But our highways on social media, they're very quick. So you need to grab people's attentions. Your posters need to be precise. Have the information, who, what, where, when, why, how. Your captions need to explain why this poster is important. Don't make them too wordy, but make them have enough meat so that people can have an appetite for your event. So think about color schemes. Is it working within, you know, maybe certain events or certain topics or certain global phenomenons have specific colors that represent them? Make sure that they're part of that as well. And within that space also, think about where your venue is. What will that look like, you know? And once you have put that out there, you fund it, and then the poster goes out, boom. And now you start getting your RSVP forms, people buying their tickets, and then you'll start tracking the numbers as you build towards your next event. So when it comes to marketing, posters, and scheduling, and all of that, you need to be on your toes and think about the human psychology when it comes to why will people be coming to your event. And make sure you package it in a way where they get that information precisely and to the point. So at this point, you've pretty much planned everything. You have your team together. You've done your marketing, tickets are being bought, and other people will probably do this the other way around and do the setup first, but we like to do the setup once everything has been solidified, because you want to make sure you have your venue, your venue knows about it, you have your topic ready, and you start now thinking about what kind of look and feel you want to give your event. So I actually started off as the set designer for Free Mind Sessions before I actually became co-founder. So this is a space that I usually govern, but of course, I can't do it alone. So what happens usually is I speak to Nyacomba, the rest of the team, and I tell them, we need to be here a couple of hours before the session so that we can set up. And once Nyaomba arrives, what happens?
I feel like a lot happens because people don't realize that even when we get onto, say, said venue like this, we have already pre-planned a lot of the things. The tech team, first of all, is setting up time lapses. We really like to document this process of putting up everything together, which is super important, and also just for future references as well. And we come together to also discuss what have we forgotten, because that is always something that happens on the day. What have we forgotten? Lindsay, with all the materials, what could we need to put these things together, especially if it is a workshop? We had building blocks and wood to gather around and put together. This was necessary to have these conversations beforehand and also assign roles, because we are a women team, but we also have our handymen that are strong and able to help us through this.
Also, women are also strong and able. I'm just saying.
But it's also important to know where our strengths are, which is completely fine. I don't object on this.
Yeah.
Another thing that we also realize is how are we also entering the space, especially if it's a restaurant, right? We have to figure out where are we going to place ourselves without also interfering with the traffic that comes in. This is a business. We must respect. You must also respect what is going on here. And I think that's what also comes to play when we reach on venue.
Yes. And now on my end, I have to source out materials. We need to come up with a budget and say, okay, all of these are going to cost this much. If we can assign different people to go and buy these things, the better. But also understand that as, I guess, the lead of design, you need to make sure that a lot of things, once you hand out that responsibility, they're no longer in your control.
Yes.
So you need to keep people on tabs, ask them, okay, what have you done? Follow-up questions, so that when everyone gets onto set that day, it's all hands on deck. So what it usually looks like, especially within a space like an establishment, that has other patrons, etc., we first start off with our sign-in desk. And that's where we gather information. We register people there, we do our ticketing, we get people who are buying tickets on sale that day. Another thing that we do is now look at the ambience. You know, if we need to set up things outside, are we doing just indoor seating, indoor and outdoor seating? And that's pretty much what we cover. To get into the actual details of who does what and where, to be honest, roles change so much during the day.
Time. Yeah. You'll find that you started off just, placing things on the table. Next thing, you're being asked to carry up something and, suspend it from the air. And that will require 4 people. Yeah. And I think one of the things, Lindsay is also explaining here is that there needs to be also cohesiveness of visualizing how we see it to the end. Because a lot of times we get flustered that time is moving. We get here, 4 hours in advance, but by the time, before you know it, it's 30 minutes, and we also need to get ready. It's not like that you just see us walking in and she's the one who hosts and I'm the one welcoming you into the space. Those things have to also be incorporated in the time.
It's important.
And something that we've been addressing so highly is time is of essence. Time passes you by very quickly. So that is something that you need to consider when you are pre-planning for your event that requires a lot of setup.
Yeah, and as Nyacomba said, everyone takes on different roles, right? So having that cohesiveness as a team, as I had mentioned earlier on, it's crucial until even
the end.
Until the end. So now setup is done, everything is ready. Our tech team has told us, okay, this light works here best. We'd rather shoot this segment here. We've done a few test shots. They're setting up and everything, and now it's go time. So what does an event rundown look through for us? Keep in mind, we're a small, intimate event. We don't have too much on our program because for us, the way we work, the simpler, the better. So we have our intros, the host, which for the most part is actually me. So the host introduces everything, tells you more about the topic at hand, runs you through what we're meant to do today. and kind of builds the ambience. It's like the first interaction you have with the experience outside of your interaction with the person at the door. So even as you're briefing your team, you need to tell everyone who is present that day, spirits need to be high. Because the experience starts from the door. Actually, it starts from how easy it is to get the tickets. So you need to remember that. So it starts at the door, and as they're coming in, you're welcoming people, and we start off with an icebreaker. And once
very
the
important, by the way.
And once the icebreaker is done, everyone's warm, we've limbered up and everything. Then we get into maybe a brief session with the catalysts, if necessary, to kind of find out who they are, what they do, and why they're there. If we can avoid it, we can by posting about that online, on our social media, etc., etc. But on the day of, we try and get people into the groups as much as possible, because the meat and the thick of it
happens there.
Yeah, it happens within that space and within that time. And then we wrap up. Usually we have to actually struggle to get people to wrap up, because we realize it takes a while for people to warm up and get into it. So as we're telling people to wrap up, we need to be very sensitive towards what is the vibe of the different groups and what different groups are feeling, so that we can make sure that as we're easing down, so we tell them, give them a countdown, on like there's 10 minutes to go, there's 5 minutes to go, and then we conclude. And usually, because people are there for the first time, we usually let Nyacomba close us off and sign us out and tell people, one, very key information, like what the objective of the day was, a brief, short history of why we do what we do, and then she also lets people know what is to come.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah.
And then I probably, sometimes, because this is something that you have created, you go into the story, which is what first-timers like to listen. Most of the time, we're very lucky that we have first-timers. So it's nice to also give them the background and not to just assume that they read it online or saw it online. Never assume your audience knows who you are.
Yeah.
Act as if this is your first time meeting them and they do not know your name. Or they do not know the brand or what the thing is about. So that already sets a tone for them even to come for the next one, or even listen to say, now that we have a podcast, to have the incentive to listen in and to come back again and bring more people.
And I think also, as the people running the event, you're also always thinking about value add for your collaborators. So as the event is going, even until the end, even post the event, as people are lingering around, remind them about food offers, remind them about drink offers, remind them of what the value of you choosing this location is. Because we're not telling you to come to such and such a place just because it's there. No, we want you to experience the space as well and what the space has to offer. So even your collaborations with certain things, don't stop just because you've said it's a wrap. You have to keep them going, because it's your responsibility from beginning to end.
Yeah. Because that is exactly how you continue maintaining the relationships, even beyond the event, and even when you require them to come again.
Yeah.
It's important to just continue to build the bridges. And you never know, through these other collaborations is what topples on to other collaborations that you may have not been able to reach.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now we move on to what happens after the session.
Yeah.
Our session is done. We've probably had a day to rest, or maybe 2, or even, we usually give ourselves a day to a week, depending on how intense the session is. Yeah. And we realized, because we struggle to get people to actually wrap up, because the conversations are so meaty, we figured we may have to export the experience elsewhere. So what does that look like? So now your session is over. We usually give ourselves maybe a day or a few days after for a debrief. And what happens is we talk about what was the session, what went right, what went wrong,
what we could have done better.
Yeah, what did we have control over, what didn't we have control over. We have a whole analysis of what the session was and vis-a-vis what our vision and our expectations and our objectives are. It helps us keep ourselves and each other in check. Also look at who was assigned this thing and did they do it?
Or drop the ball.
Yeah, or drop the ball.
Yeah.
And usually those meetings, they're not combative, at least with us.
Yeah.
In some cases, if things have really gone to crap, then they can be very combative.
I'm trying to think of an example.
I don't think we've had
But
one.
it's always, I don't know. I think it's in pressure. Actually, what I've noticed, and because most of the team members, it's crucial to know your team members and their strengths and their weaknesses, because that way you know what to expect.
Yeah.
So if you give somebody an assignment and you know completely well they're not able to execute that, that's actually on you, because you're the one who was managing them, or you are the one delegating that. And I think many a times we need to understand that, so that even criticism that you will give will be upholding their either standards or their personality, or help them with their career in future.
Right.
Yeah.
And what happens after we've had the debrief is we have a couple of more meetings after that, where we now look at post-session analysis. You know, we give out questionnaires during the session where we're able to gather data. We look at the data people have been putting in within the registration forms. We look at the overall experience. Yeah. We run polls on our social media and gather data so that we can properly analyze what do our numbers look like? Are we able to achieve what we actually wanted to achieve? What was people's experience? What necessary feedback do we need to pick up from this? And then we realize, okay, fair enough, a lot of people who have not been to the session want to experience it. A lot of people who felt they wanted to keep going, but because of time, weren't able to keep, to give out all of their thoughts and their ideas, or listen more into the topic. So we came up with different ways for people to tap in and to have an extended experience of what we offer over here. So we came up with a podcast where we match the podcast to the topic that we have at hand, so that if you feel like you missed out on part of the conversation, it's there. And planning the podcast is very easy. At least it is for me.
In hindsight.
In hindsight. When we started off, we didn't know what we were doing. And we had to work with a studio that was flexible and available. So what we do is we because the topic has already been assigned, we use a lot of the questions that we did, as I spoke about it earlier, a lot of the questions that you and the team come up with. Within our feedback forms, we also look at the different things people would have wanted to talk about and want to talk about. And we look through all of that, and then we come up with podcast questions. Our podcast lasts anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending on how well the podcast goes. And that keeps that engagement happening.
Post the session. It's very important. Yeah. These things, like we say, you can only scratch the surface. It's like we are only getting to just one layer of that iceberg. The podcast allows us to be more relaxed, can explore more dynamics with the questions, and even allow the said guest to give us their feedback and give us their opinions and thoughts and processes. Post-production is important because we want the event to transcend beyond the sessions. And that's very key, because we can only scratch the surface with these topics, with these themes that we explore during the 4-hour session. The podcasts have given us an opportunity to sit down with our guests, get them relaxed, and get them opening up even more. I know that sounds so cliche, but think about it. There's audio involved, and there is all this opportunity for them to dive deep into things that they were not able to do during that session. And that's the beauty of it. And we're so excited, because that is a realm that we are exploring, and I hope that you guys can take this opportunity to do the same.
So to conclude, we're going to run you through everything just to make sure you've been keeping track with what we've been saying. So we've taken you through the genesis.
The genesis, the beginning, the what I like to say, the love story of how it all began and where it all germinated from. And then we went through our, the meat grit, the meat cute, as I like to call it. And this is where also the engine started to run, because without this, we couldn't be able to now go delving into making these sessions, which is what now you're experiencing today. And then we have now curating our team, the post-production, and now finally our podcasts.
Yeah, and even podcast does immerse itself within that, it's okay, English. It does fall into the category of posts. So think about every aspect of what it takes to create the intimate space that you would want to create for people to network. Keeping in track with your topics, having amazing collaborations that are seamless, having a space that accommodates you, and having a team that works and several teams that are cohesive is mandatory, because everyone else will feel it. They will feel welcome. They will feel like you thought about their experience.
And that's very key.
Yes.
Because if people don't feel like they're walking into your sitting room, how else are they going to feel like they're at home?
Unless your sitting room is nasty, then we don't want you to walk into it.
But as always, we, again, thrive on the word vulnerability. This is not something that comes easy for a lot of us. We haven't been taught this. This is something that we hope that you may take this experience with us and put it into practice wherever you may go.
Yes. There's always room for improvement. There's always room to grow. We've been running for just over 4 years now, and we hope to be running even longer. There's always so much to learn along the way. The lessons never, never end. In fact, we do have a session coming up at the end of this month and every last Thursday of the month. So if you're interested to come and experience a slice of what it is that we have to offer, trust me, we'll give you a whole cake. So please come to our events and interact with us on social media. And until then, guys, this has been our masterclass. Do not forget
to stay free-minded.